I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's News Update. A rocket was fired from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel on Tuesday, landing in the Ashkelon Regional Council area. No injuries or damage were reported. The United States ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, addressed the UN on Monday at the Security Council open debate on the Middle East. Among the issues Rice touched on were the Israeli settlements. Rice said that, like every U.S. administration for decades, we do not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlement activity. We continue to oppose any efforts to legalize outposts. As far as existing settlements, Rice said they must be dealt with by the parties, along with other permanent status issues. As you may have seen on IBA News, Rice also addressed the Palestinian bid for non-member state observer status at the UN, which Rice said would only harm the peace process. She further reiterated the U.S.'s support for the creation of a Palestinian state as part of a two-state solution through direct negotiations without preconditions between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Rice also spoke out against recent anti-Palestinian violence and desecration of religious sites on the part of Jewish Israeli extremists, calling on Israel to step up its efforts to confront and prosecute such incidents, as well as deterring them in the future. Rice also took the opportunity to thank Israel for its recent financial help in the severe economic situation in the Palestinian territories, saying Israel's support served to provide financial resources to meet the basic needs of the Palestinian people. The United States and Israel have signed a new telecommunications agreement Monday that will make it easier for U.S. companies looking to export telecommunications products to Israel. Deputy U.S. Trade Representative Miriam Sapiro and Israeli Minister of Industry, Trade and Labor Shalom signed the Mutual Recognition Agreement, which Sapiro says will save American manufacturers money and time. It will facilitate trade by allowing for product testing and certification only once in the United States prior to exporting the product to Israel. The U.S. Trade Representative's office said the new agreement further strengthens the mutually beneficial trade relationship between the U.S. and Israel and supports American and Israeli businesses and workers with new opportunities for greater growth. The leader of Israel's Labor Party, Sheli Yachimovich, announced Tuesday that American Democratic pollster and campaign strategist Stanley Greenberg will be arriving in Israel this week to serve as lead strategist to the opposition party in the upcoming early Knesset elections to be held in Israel in January. Greenberg previously served as a campaign strategist for former U.S. President Bill Clinton, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, former South African President Nelson Mandela, and Israel's Defense Minister Ehud Barak in 1999. Greenberg is set to arrive in Israel on Thursday. The Anti-Defamation League has called on Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi to reject, quote, blatantly anti-Semitic and anti-Israel statements made by a top Muslim Brotherhood official. The ADL was referring to comments made by Muhammad Badi, the supreme guide of the Brotherhood, where he accused Jews of shedding the blood of the people, trampling sanctuaries and holy places, desecrating even their own sanctuaries through their actions, and crossing the limits of their tyranny by making the Al-Aqsa Mosque a place for Jewish prayer. ADL National Director Abe Foxman released a statement urging Morsi to forcefully repudiate the statements, saying the hatred, incitement, and calls to violence in Dr. Badi's weekly message fall far short of the standard of freedom of expression that is not used to incite hatred that President Morsi set for Egypt in his speech to the UN General Assembly last month. Foxman was referring to Morsi's address to the UN on September the 26th, where he called for freedom of expression that combats extremism and violence rather than incites it. Foxman urged Morsi to give real meaning to his words and publicly disavow the, quote, hate-filled rhetoric spewed by Badi. And finally today, Jewish news website Al Jeminer reports that up-and-coming Jewish boxer Cletus Hebrew Hammer Selden scored a third-round knockout against Carl the Assassin McNichol Saturday night at the NYCB Theater in Westbury, New York, taking his record to a perfect 9-0-0. The knockout was the sixth of the native Long Islander's professional boxing career. In an exclusive interview earlier this year, Selden, who is a welterweight, told the site that he wears a Star of David on his boxing trunks and jacket, just like the old Jewish fighters, he said, referring to the legacy of the 20s and 30s when New York played host to a golden age of Jewish boxing. Selden's jacket also bears the phrase, "Remember the Masada," on the back, referring to the Jewish rebellion against the Roman Empire in the 1st century CE. And that's Shalom TV's news update. I'm Teisha Bader.